Lenny, how are you?
It was the 21 there. See,
Lenny, you're my man.
long range Todd, he had to take up.
Thank you very much. You need water, guys? Would you guys like water? Or are you good?
Yeah, he got bothered a little bit.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're thrilled to be joined by the connections of Country House, winner of the Kentucky Derby, via the disqualification of maximum security.
I'll take one.
Country House is the second longest priced Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, but because he didn't go down the
Let's try this again. Come on. All right. Okay, there we go. Country House is the second longest priced Kentucky Derby winner ever, paying $132.40. We're thrilled now to be joined by these first-time Kentucky Derby winners, starting, of course, with our Hall of Fame trainer and Churchill Downs legend, Bill Mott, on the far end. Winning jockey, Flavien Prat. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And then from the far side towards me, we have, Guinness McFadden, followed by Mrs. Maury Shields, whose late husband, Jerry Shields, was the owner and breeder of this horse. Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
And then representing L&J Foxwoods, Jamie Roth, as well as racing manager Alex Solis II. So a round of applause for these folks. A historic derby, the first time a winner's been put up via disqualification. Bill Mott, can you just tell us about your thoughts throughout the waiting out the inquiry and how it feels to win your first Kentucky Derby in general as well as this way?
Well, first of all, I think our horse ran great. I was really pleased with the position he had. I was pleased with the way Flavien rode him and the way the horse responded for him. As far as the win goes, it's actually it's bittersweet. I'd be lying if I said it was any different. I mean, I'd like, you always want to win with a clean trip and have everybody recognize the horse as the very good horse and the great athlete that he is. I think due to the disqualification, probably some of that is diminished. But, this is horse racing. There were two horses in the race that lost all chance to win a Kentucky Derby. And they were in position at the time to hit the board. And people bet on these races. There's millions of dollars that are bet. And there are some people that bet on the two horses that got bothered, and they had no chance to get a placing. And I know the stewards had a very, very difficult decision. I mean, I'm glad I wasn't in their shoes. I'm glad I didn't have to make the decision in front of over 100,000 people and the millions of people that are watching this on TV and around the world. But, with that being said, I'm damn glad they put our number up.
Flavien, the incident that resulted in the disqualification did not necessarily affect you very much, but would still like to hear what you were aware of coming to the quarter pole, and also if you could take us through your entire trip.
Well, the entire trip was good. It broke well and just put me in a race. It was traveling really well the entire race. And once I got him outside and I started to make my move, well, the maximum security kind of it drifted out and kind of turned us sideways. Like you say, I wasn't the two horse inside of me had a lot of more trouble than I did, but it affected me anyway.
And just tell us what it's like to win a Kentucky Derby.
Well, it felt pretty good actually. No, it's a great moment. It's a dream come true. coming from Europe, Breeders' Cup was a bigger deal for me. But as soon as I rode the first year here, and I was in a grandstand and I watched this race, and it's amazing. I mean, there's no race like the Kentucky Derby, and I always, was hoping to one day ride the Derby, and to win it. And well, it's done today, so I'm really happy and blessed.
Mrs. Shields, would love to hear from you.
Me?
Yes, please. It's a pretty poignant win, and your feelings over the last half hour, watching the race and then waiting for the result and winning a Kentucky Derby with a homebred.
Well, it's very exciting because Jerry bred the horse. He's a homebred. And I just thank Billy Mott for training him, for Flavian for riding him, and for this incredible win. It'll take a while for it to sink in. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get some questions. If you wouldn't mind, just tell us your name and where you're from.
How's it going? Mike Spector from Thoroughbred Racing Dudes. Mr. Mott, congratulations on your first Derby win. Country House was sitting ninth early in the race. He had previously used closing tactics in his career. Was it the plan to have him more forwardly placed in the race?
No, I thought we'd probably be out the back, and I expressed my thoughts to Flavian that, just to, be patient with him, let him break. I didn't feel he had a lot of early gate speed. So, when he was laying in close proximity to the leaders, I was a little surprised. I mean, but I could tell that he was really traveling well. He wasn't running off, but he was traveling very well. He handled the slop very well. He's a horse that's, he's been on the improve. He's been a big backward type of horse. When he was a 2-year-old, he was one of those that didn't show us a lot until he got into the fall of the year, and we ran him a couple times, and it seemed like the light bulb was starting to come on. And I've been telling people all winter, that when we, if this horse ever wakes up and figures out really what he's doing, that the 1.25 miles, the Kentucky Derby, is certainly within his reach, and not to discount him. And we were right today. I mean, he showed up. He showed up in a big way. I think everybody showed up in a big way. Everybody that's been in contact with this horse has showed up in a big way. Everybody's done a great job from, before the time that I got him. There's so much that goes into, getting these horses to this point, whether it's, the farm people that raise the horse, the people that do the matings, and there's a lot of hurdles to jump over. And just to get him to the race is such an honor and really such an accomplishment. Not just for me, but for everybody that deals with him. I mean, I'm, fortunate enough to just be the spokesman for everybody that has put their hands on this horse and put some thought into getting him ready, and from the mating to the walking into that circle at Churchill Downs. And I got to tell you, it's a pretty special event, and why do it the easy way? You know what I mean? This is kind of an unusual way to get to the winner's circle with having the DQ in the race, but I would say the stewards, in my opinion, I think they made the right call, and I will try to look at it, from an unbiased point of view. I know they looked at it for a long time, and I'm sure that they didn't want to do it. But as I said before, if it was an ordinary race on a Wednesday, and I think they definitely would have taken the winner down. I think that's the only way we can really look at it. And if we need any to rationalize it at all, I think that's how I've got to look at it. And but I'm pleased with everybody that's as I said, been in contact, and my staff, they've all done a wonderful job, and they've all worked with the Kentucky Derby winner now.
Dan Walken, USA Today. Bill, obviously, a great result for you. What kind of result do you think this is for the sport of horse racing, that you have the first time a Kentucky Derby winner's been taken down like that?
Well, I mean, it's something that it'll give somebody a lot to talk about for a long time. I mean, they'll be speaking about the result of this race from now until, they run the next Kentucky Derby and the next 10 Kentucky Derbies and 20 Kentucky Derbies. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this race shows up on TV and, over and over and over a year from now. But, there's always a lot of controversy in this sport, and we're probably going to be involved in it from now on. But, I'm going to take it, and I'm just pleased for the owners and the breeders of this horse that have put so much into the game, and I'm really glad to be sitting up here on this stage with them.
Bill, a lot of the time there would be an expectation that in a race this big there would be a certain amount of race riding. Do you have thoughts on whether, in general, riders should be allowed a little more leeway in a race of this stature versus adjudicating by the letter of the law?
I don't really think this was race riding. I think the horse did this on his own. I mean, for me to watch it, and I'd have to watch it again and again, and maybe somebody else can point something else out to me. But I don't think Luis Saez did anything intentionally. I think his horse was green. He could have been shine from the inside. He could have been, he's an inexperienced horse. He's only run 3 or 4 times. And he's probably never seen anything like this before. I can't answer why he did it, but it looked like he came off his inside lead at the 5/16 pole, and when he did, he came out 3 paths and he bothered 2 horses. And, Louis is a friend of mine. He rides for me. I've got, friendships with the connections of that horse, and my heart actually aches a little bit for them, but that's the way it is. I've been on the other end of it plenty of times, just not in the Kentucky Derby.
Next question. Yes, sir.
Josh Moore, Lexington Herald Leader. Bill, how do you liken this experience, just this moment, compared to everything you went through with Cigar?
Well, that was a pretty special time, and the run with Cigar lasted almost 2.5 years. So, there was a lot of pressure. We came over today, and we were bound to enjoy the day and have a good time. And I think Guinness and Mrs. Shields and the Roths all came here. And I mean, I don't know that our expectations were that we were going to wind up in the winner's circle, but I think naturally everybody was hopeful. But I think it was just a real thrill to find out that the decision that we collectively made to run this horse in the Kentucky Derby worked out, and I think it's been a great team effort, and everybody was willing to go ahead and give it a shot. As you could see looking at the tote board, I mean, there was a lot of people that probably didn't think we could win, but that's horse racing.
Lenny Shulman from the Blood Horse. Guinness, could you talk about the family involvement of you and this horse, and also if you guys could talk about how the partnership was formed with everybody on this horse? Thank you.
Sure. Obviously, I think it was a 4th generation homebred of Jerry's. So, 4 dams back, he's been breeding this family, and
I mean, you, the human family.
me? I had nothing to do with it. I'm just, I guess, the owner on paper, one of the owners. Yeah, so Jerry passed away and left the horses to us. So that's how it happened. Sorry.
And the partnership with LMJ.
Give me a second. How did that? So, I just been working with Alex and Jason for a long time, and just seemed like the right thing to do. It's always fun to do it with other people, and the Roths are great, and yeah, just we thought we had a good horse, and I don't know, it just happened. So just over.
This horse broke his maiden at Gulfstream in very impressive fashion, and I called Guinness after he crossed the finish line, and I said, Guinness, your phone's going to be ringing off the hook. And, I think he was traveling at the time, and so we had a conversation about it, and I think his phone was ringing off the hook, and which it told me about later. But he, was, as he said, has had an association with Jason and Alex, and I think he felt comfortable. They wanted to buy a piece of the horse, and I think he thought they were the right people to go with, and I think he probably wanted them to enjoy this horse as much as he was at the time, because he was a very impressive maiden winner, when he won at Gulfstream. So, when people see that early in a horse's 3-year-old year, it's like all of a sudden they're, everybody wants to, be part of a horse that is a good horse and has the possibility to go to the Kentucky Derby. Is that fair to say?
No, that's exactly what happened. We got, I probably had 10 or 12 offers on the horse, and our goal wasn't necessarily to sell the horse, but I felt like it was. Jerry had always told me that it was never my business to own horses that valuable. So, just you never think you're going to win the Derby, obviously, but we took less money to partner with the Roths, and they're a known quantity. Nothing about the other people was bad. We just knew what to expect from them, and I've known them for 5, 6, 7 years, and it's been great.
And Jamie, can you follow up on the opportunity to be part of this?
It happened very organically. We know the McFaddens and Maury and their relationship with Alex and Jason, and Alex and Jason's relationship with us. It just was very seamless, and we were presented with an opportunity to buy a piece of the Kentucky Derby champion now, and there were a lot of things to like about the horse. As Bill said, after he won that race at Gulfstream, it was very impressive, and we were all in to have a chance to own a horse like that with such great people. It's what it's all about, and it's been awesome to, even before today. Our relationship with the McFaddens has just, changed so much and grown stronger, and it's been a really awesome experience. So, but it was very organic. It happened very naturally, which I think speaks volumes about them as individuals. So, thank you.
Alex, I'm sure there was no hesitation on your part. Did you make the call, or who called who?
I feel really special being in the spot because I was lucky enough when Jerry was alive, Guinness put me in the spot to help him out. And so when this colt was entered in the September sale, Guinness and I had talked about it, and he said, what do you think? I'm like, let's sell the filly, keep the colt. And Guinness said, you think so? I'm like, let's talk to Jason, and we talked to my partner. And Jason was like, yeah, are you kidding me? That's a really nice colt. And so Guinness said, all right, we're going to Jerry. We met in the lunchroom at Keeneland the week before he was in book 4, I believe. And we talked to Jerry, and Jerry was like, sounds good. It was like no fight. It was like, that didn't go like I expected. I expected there was going to be a fight, like, let's keep the filly. And it never happened. And we're here today, and this is all because of Guinness and Bill. They've done a great job managing this horse, and I'm really proud.
Next question.
Danielle Lerner, Louisville Courier-Journal. Guinness, I know you've been in this industry for a little while, and I was curious if you had ever come close to, thinking you were going to get to this point before today, and what it feels like to finally be here.
Actually, I was talking with Michael Wallace last year, and he said it was pretty easy to win the Derby, so I thought I'd give it a try. They won the Triple Crown, so we're not quite there yet with him. But no, I mean, I'd never even. Nobody win. I don't win the Derby. I don't know anyone that's won the Derby. This isn't something that happens to people that I know. So no, this is not anything I ever expected to happen. But now that it's happened, I think we'd like to do this next year also. So, but yeah, it's completely out of left field.
Bill, people think of you as a conservative trainer, but with this horse, right after the Louisiana Derby, maybe 10 minutes later, you said, we'll probably go to Arkansas and try to get the points. Why was there no hesitation there? And obviously you knew he was special, but talk about pushing a little bit to give the horse the opportunity and get the points.
I really felt he was a horse that probably deserved to run in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, I saw him that way early on the winter after we saw him break his maiden. I thought he was, I thought he was well suited to the 1.25 miles. And when he ran in Louisiana, of course, we didn't gain much in the way of points in that race, and we needed some more to ensure a spot in the Derby. And I said all along, I said, this is a big, tough horse. And I said, it's not the style now to go back in, 3 weeks or 2 weeks or whatever. But I said, this horse can do it. I said, he's a big, he's just big and tough and durable, eats the bottom out of it. He's a dream for, a horse trainer, because he's just, he's one like they trained in the old days. You know what I mean? You used to see these horses run more often. I mean, they'd run, they'd run in the Derby and they'd run one time before they ran back in the Preakness. So you don't see those kind of things anymore. But I think this is probably a horse that's had, been brought along from a good, solid pedigree, and he was tough enough to take it.
Next question.
Flavian, first of all, congratulations. Okay. First of all, congratulations, Flavian. You can take us through this. What part of Maximum Security's body hit what part of your horse, and how did that impact your horse? What did that cause your horse to do?
Well, we never made contact because there was horses between us, but the horse on my inside hit the hip on my horse, so it kind of turned me sideways, and it's at the quarter pole where actually I was making a run, and I kind of lost momentum. But I think it's not only me, but also the horses between Maximum Security and Country House who have been affected.
You, I'm Bill Marshall of the Augusta Chronicle. Flavian sort of touched on it, but it's really important that we get this right. Is it fair to say that it is your contention that the interference that was caused by Maximum Security affected your horse's trip, or did not?
It may have affected it slightly, but I am going to say that it affected two other horses dramatically. If what happened to us was the only thing they were looking at, I don't think you would have seen a disqualification. But it was mainly the other two horses that got bothered the worst, and they lost all chance, and those two horses lost their opportunity to win or place in the Kentucky Derby.
Dan Torchman, America's Best Racing. I have a question, but first, Flavian, just one other point of clarification. Did you lodge the claim of foul, or was it one of the other jockeys inside of you?
Yeah, I did ask a claim foul. Because, like I say, I mean, I thought he shifted out a lot, and we have been slightly bothering that incident, and also the horse inside of me.
Okay. So question for you, and then I'd like to kick it back to Jamie and Alex as well. Just take me through your thought process as you were sitting through the review, and at what point, if you thought all along that you would be moved up, or if you were thinking, hey, this is probably a long shot. Just kind of your thought process as you were waiting out the objection and the review.
Well, I was just hoping to get placed as the winner. That's what was my slot.
Did you think it was going to happen?
It took quite long, and usually when it takes so long, it's a good sign. But I mean, I was not in the steward office, so it's hard to say.
I mean, like Bill said, I don't think anyone wants to win the Derby the way that it happened for Country House. But with that being said, I do think he ran his best race to date, besides his maiden race. But obviously, this is a Grade 1, not a maiden race. And more importantly, I believe in the notion that while it may not have affected us as much as other horses, if that would be taken down on a Wednesday, well, I think you need to be consistent and take it down on another day, even if it's the Derby. Again, it's not the way you want to win, but I'm proud of our horse. I think he ran great, and more importantly, this sport throws curveballs at you every day. I mean, most of the news is not great news, so you're going to take what you can get and run with it, and I don't think in any of our eyes it diminishes what the horse did today, and I think we're all going to sleep well tonight and party hard. So go Country House.
Bill or Guinness, the female side has some grass and some off-track pedigree. Do you think that the conditions today moved your horse up?
I don't know. He seems to like the mud, but I don't know. I mean, I was hoping for a fast track. You always want a fast track on Derby Day. I wouldn't be so wet right now. But yeah, I mean, obviously he likes it. I think it's more a factor of some horses don't like it than him liking it. So, is that
good horse to run?
Yeah,
anything.
I mean, he showed us in the Arkansas Derby that he would run well and close well over that kind of track. Certainly, pedigree has something to do with it. I believe his grandsire is Smart Strike. Alex, is that correct? I
That's
guess
correct.
And that's Mr. Prospector line, and I think that's well known to like off track. So, I mean, I think it's bred in him to take to an off track.
Won the Haskell slot.
More questions?
Flavian, I'm Mark Story from the Lexington Herald Leader. What's your spring been like? With you had Omaha Beach, you got off him, then you win the Derby in a very unusual way. Just emotionally, what's the spring been like for you?
Well, it's been really emotional. I mean, like you say, I was riding Omaha Beach. Well, it turned out that I made a wrong choice, but at the end. It turns out great, actually.
I got the call from Flavian's agent, and he said something really touched home a lot for me, because I've known Flavian because my dad works for Richard Mandela, and I've been close to Richard my whole life. And Flavian started coming over when he was working for the Wertheimers, and we became friends. And the whole time, and Bill had asked him to ride the horse, and Guinness said, "What do you think?" And I'm like, "Hey, we're all good. It'd be exciting." And Flavian called, and he was waiting for Pletcher to either tell him yes or no in cutting humor. And I was like, "Man, I really would like you to ride this horse." I never call Flavian. I called him, and Derek called, and he's like, "Flavian said it would mean nothing more to him to ride the Derby for the Ross. And I think that really meant a lot, and I'm really proud to be able to do this together.
Thank you.
Frank Hanks with Blood Horse, and this is for Bill. Bill, were you a little surprised that the stewards didn't just put up the inquiry sign as opposed to things having to go through the objections?
Well, frankly, when I was watching the race, I didn't, you know what I mean? Sometimes you got your eyes on, I'm trying to watch two horses in the race, plus, you know, and it's a big field. So I didn't see exactly what happened. And I mean, I had to look at the film over and over and over myself to really get the real, you know, the detail of what happened. You know, one of the other riders in the race was directly behind it, and he said there was a, you know, Jose had gotten off of Tacitus, and he said, you know, there was really a wild incident that took place in front of me because he had the, you know, bird's eye view of it. And, you know, then of course they started, I don't know who claimed foul to begin with, but then they started showing it over and over, and I was in a little room in the tunnel, and I was watching, and I had to watch it a few times to, you know, things happen so quickly out there. But the more I watched, the more I thought, you know what, if it was a Wednesday, you know, in the third race on the card, this horse is coming down.
And one more fun question this
Sure.
time. This horse wasn't piling up wins this spring, but you knew in the back of your head that his best distance was 1.25 miles. As a trainer, is that a challenge to keep your confidence in a horse, even though he might not be going in a winner's circle each time?
Well, you know, I mean, you got to believe in something, and I believe both horses that, you know, that we ran today were well suited for the 1.25 miles, and it was interesting because we had another horse in the barn, another nicely bred Juddmonte colt that won off by 15 his first time, and he was probably the talking horse, so to speak. You know, and all the weight was on his shoulders, and everybody wanted to come and see him. They wanted to come see him work. They wanted to talk about him. And I said to whoever would listen, I know I was Dave Grenning was riding with me, and one day I said, man, they're overlooking these other two horses. I said, these are really the horses that probably are, you know, the ones that are really suited for that particular race. And so we were, you know, first and third, as it turns out.
William Wright, Main Event Sports. Being that it appears that Country House's effects from the foul were indirect at this point, are you concerned that there may be any litigation related to the results of the race?
You know, I didn't even want to really think about that because that's a nightmare, and it's a no-win situation for anybody involved. And I you know, I spoke to the other trainer when he was walking out of the tunnel, Jason Service, and I didn't get a hint of that from him. You know, I think he's been around it long enough, and I'm sure he watched the films well enough. I think the people that own, you know, the horse that crossed the finish line first, they're experienced in the business, and I mean, they could see what happened.
Bill, how was that exchange with Jason?
Well, I mean, I said, you know, man, I said this, you know, exactly what I've told you. I said, this is bittersweet. I mean, I know how I'd feel if I was in his shoes, and to be able to train a Derby winner and then have the horse taken down. But I think he knows what happened.
Hi, Bill. John Huang, Sports View America. You're no stranger to this particular track, and yet you hate for the biggest win of your career to be marred by what you called a bittersweet victory. Other than the race itself, what about this day, this week, this Kentucky Derby experience do you want to remember? What really sticks out in your mind?
You know, what I enjoy the most is just training the horses. I mean, that's what I live for get up in the morning, come out and see the horses. And we've, from the day after the Arkansas Derby, and we were here with all the horses, and we had 3 great weeks. Everybody trained well, everybody worked well, horses breezed well, they were doing good. They were, I couldn't have been more pleased with the way they were training. And like a week ago, I just, I was sitting on the pony and I was talking to Wayne Lucas, and I said, man, I wish they'd run this thing tomorrow, which you get that feeling when things are going really well, and you haven't had any hiccups or bumps in the road. And, it seemed like, man, I just wanted to get here. And then I woke up this morning and I said, oh, shit, this is here. You know what I mean? It's like, it's finally, it's here. And all of a sudden it just snuck up on us. You know what I mean? It seemed like a week ago I said that, and all of a sudden today is the day. And it's happened so many times before, when you're getting ready for a big race. But I called my assistant on the way in, and it was we trained both horses at 5:15 this morning. We took them to the track and gave them an easy, a little bit of exercise, an easy gallop around the racetrack, and we were like almost the only ones out there. I think there was probably only 2 or 3 other horses on the racetrack. And you just want to get through it. You want to get them around there, get them off the gap, get them home, get their bath, get them cooled out, and get them in the stall, and get them ready to hang the bridle on them this afternoon. You just, when you've got good horses, you just want to stay out of their way and just not make stupid mistakes. And that's what I do. I mean, number one, unfortunately, we always look for something that's wrong. You know what I mean? When you get up in the morning, you look at the horses and you're trying, well, is there something that's not right that we've got to fix or we've got to change? And you hate to be negative about anything, but that's kind of what we do. It's nuts and bolts to a certain extent. I mean, we've got to, look and try to see what we've got to deal with. And sometimes it causes you not to be real positive when you talk to people about the horses. Sometimes you don't really, you're not able to really talk in a real positive manner because you're always looking for something that is a negative that, you've got to straighten out. So when you finally reach a point where the training goes well, it's actually very memorable. And I think just that part of it, means the most to me. And then, you want to have, we do this not only for ourselves. I mean, I do it because I love horses and I love competition. But, I have people that I work for, and it's so very important to me to have them satisfied at the end of the day. And sometimes they probably don't know that, but, that's really what it's all about for me.
All right, a couple more questions. Jeffrey.
Jeffrey from World Horse Racing. This is a question for either Bill or Flavian. The Japan Cup in 2010, there was a disqualification, and then they changed their interference rules. Are you guys happy with the interference rules here in America, and would you like to see them changed on the back of this?
I didn't hear anything. I can't hear you.
Are you happy with the interference regulations here in America? And would you like America to adopt the worldwide interference rules?
Well, I mean, on a day like this, yeah, I'm happy with it. I mean, I've been in both situations where I'm the one who's taking down. Obviously not in the derby, but I've been in that situation and it's hard. But I mean, today I'm really happy with it.
And Bill, just in your view, Bill? Please.
Well, can you explain to everybody the difference between the rules and regulations here and what you're talking about?
I don't know what they are here, but there's England, Hong Kong. They have a Category 1 rule where it's more like the best horse wins rather than the injured party, the interfered one, gets demoted?
Well, I think the stewards in Kentucky is. One day I was at Keeneland. I don't know. This must have been 30 years ago, and I had a horse called Iron Pegasus that got turned sideways at the 8th pole. A horse came by him. Shoemaker was on a horse, and he came by my horse, and he literally, his horse lugged in and hit my horse and turned my horse sideways. Shoemaker went on to, win by 7 or 8 lengths from the 8th pole to the wire. He was a clear winner. And I was very upset. My horse had gotten bothered. And I called Mr. Dangerfield. At that time, it was, stewards were very respected. And I asked him, I said, Mr. Dangerfield, I said, did my horse not get turned sideways at the 8th pole? And he says, yes, Mr. Mott. He said he did. But he said, we here, the stewards in Kentucky, have a lot of latitude in these matters. And he said, your horse was not going to win that race anyhow. And so there was no disqualification on that day. But I'm not so sure that, in that case, I accepted what he said and what he told me. And there's been a lot of other incidents that come into question. But I think in today's race, I think there were 2 horses that were bothered in that race that you nor I or anybody else in this room can tell us how they were going to finish, and the other 2 horses got bothered at a very critical point in the race. I mean, you can have a little bumping leaving the starting gate. You can have a little bumping going into the first turn. But if you get totally stopped at the 5/16th pole or the quarter pole and, have to lose 4 lengths at that point, which it looked to me on the film that one of these horses, when he took up, he slid back 4 or 5 lengths. You cannot regain that momentum. So I think it was a judgment call on the steward's part. I mean, I haven't heard an explanation from them, but I'm just guessing that they felt that those horses lost all chance for a placing, and I think they've got a responsibility to not only to us as owners and trainers, but they've got a responsibility to the people that put this show on who are betting on these horses. And there's, we'll look up tomorrow. I don't know how many millions of dollars there were spent, but there were people that bet on those other 2 horses, and those people, deserve justice as well. So
We do need to let these folks go to the traditional winners party, but I'd like to direct the last question to Bill, if you wouldn't mind just thinking back on your decades at Churchill Downs, working out of the same barn as your mentor, and finally getting a Kentucky Derby win. Can you just elaborate on what it means?
It's pretty special. I guess until last year, I held the record here at Churchill Downs for the number of wins, and I think we held the record for over 32 years. And so I kind of cut my teeth here. And, being in this position up at this podium is a very special thing. And it's, my hope was always to come back and run in the Derby, hopefully to get a horse that's good enough to run in the Derby. And, could I ever have imagined winning it? Well, you always hope. But I tell the story that the first Derby I heard, I was at Fort Pierre, South Dakota, and I was in the front of a GMC van, and I had the AM radio turned on. The van was owned by Keith Asmussen, who is the father of Cash and Steve, and they're pretty well known. I was 14 years old at the time, I believe, and I turned the radio on, and I heard the call of Proud Clarion winning the Kentucky Derby. And at that point in time, I couldn't even imagine being at Churchill Downs or coming to Churchill Downs. I never thought I'd get out of South Dakota, to tell you the truth. And to be here and not only be the leading trainer at Churchill Downs for so many years, and making so many acquaintances and having such a good start here, and then to finally win the Derby, you know, I'll reflect back on this for a long time.
And the traditional final question, what would be a great time for our friends in the media to come meet with you in the morning at the barn and perhaps...
Depends on how much Crown Royal I drink tonight.
Yeah, Woodford Preserve.
Oh, jeez.
Casamigos, tequila, and Berg. Maybe we'll mix all three together. No, but you know, we'll try to be there before daylight.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And everyone, I just want to make one quick note. The stewards are going to come down, and Chief Steward Barbara Borden will take questions after the final race. So stand by for that.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Flavian.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.